it's also interesting how, with all these marches around London and Paris and Amsterdam and every single major Western city, that there is so little understanding that it's not really about Palestine, and it's not really even necessarily about the Jews. That actually, that there is an ingrained hatred not just for Judaism but also for Christianity and generally the West. And and it transpires in quite a few of the posts on X or on Facebook or on Instagram, where you suddenly realize that actually, yeah, Palestine is just the excuse for a lot of other sort of covert agendas. I mean, recently I saw one of them was quite open. Was someone went from sort of saying that the state of Israel has no right to exist, instead of the argument led straight on to the United States of America has no right to exist, from a person sitting in the US. I think she was a tenured professor as well. No surprises there. And that, you know, despite that, because obviously I can sort of semi-understand why people don't necessarily want to, you know, if it's people who decide to be silent, they go, oh, well, you know, not my cause, Gaza's a faraway place, whatever. Fair enough, I get it. I can understand.
Yep.
But it's like, well, actually, mate, you know, they're not marching in Gaza or in Jerusalem, are they? Or in Israel. They're marching in London, they're marching in Washington, D.C., they're marching in New York City. they're at your doorstep, bro.
The problem is here, and you're 100% correct. People aren't understanding that this is, you know, look, these people don't care. The vast majority of these people marching couldn't point out Gaza on a map.
No, and they wouldn't know what river and what sea.
Well, we've seen that time and time again, right?
Yeah.
You're like, you know, well, some lady said the mountains to the sea.
The mountains to the sea. That's a great video. It's a very funny one.
Very funny one. But the majority of these people
don't actually know.
I promise you, if we went to one of these marches and changed the slogan to the mountains to the to the river, right, or the mountains to the moon, they'd all be chanting the mountains to the moon.
Yeah,
they don't have a clue.
Yeah,
right. They truly don't have a clue, and you're 100% correct. The ideology that we're fighting against is the ideology that you're fighting against. Is the ideology that any Westerner who cares about liberty and freedom
fight against.
Has to fight against, because it's coming to you next. Yeah. If, God forbid, Israel fell, which it won't, but if it was to, they're not stopping there. It's not, oh, okay, well, we have Palestine, right? We saw how ludicrous the idea of land for peace was when in 2005 we unilaterally disengaged from Gaza.
Yeah.
We took this entire piece of land, pulled Jews out of their
Pulled Jews
homes.
out of it, of course. And they did not want to go. The videos are heart-wrenching. I've seen
They're
I saw the
heart-wrenching.
videos. Yeah,
I was in Israel at that time. It was just before I was about to sign up into the army.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that. I was horrified. I couldn't bear watching those images.
Yeah, no, they're horrific.
And you see Jews being pulled out of their homes to give them this piece of land because everybody said, you know what? All they want is their own place.
Yeah.
Give them that and they'll be fine.
Yeah.
I was a kid at the time, and I was like, what are all of you talking about? That's not the issue.
Yeah.
And what's happened? Billions in international aid, more than any other people in any other point of history.
Yeah.
And they turned it into a terror system where their people are hungry.
Some very well-engineered tunnels.
Incredible tunnels.
Yeah.
You know, there's 5 times more tunnels than we even thought there were.
That's incredible.
The tunnel system's insane what they've built underground.
Yeah, no,
it's bigger than the New York subway, than the London, metro. It's insane what they've built. And within all of that,
at the cost of their own people.
Absolutely, at the cost of their own people. And the fact that people are marching that, I mean, it's ridiculous. You guys posted something this morning I saw, that showed a huge line of people standing in line to, free Palestine, and no one standing for the Uyghur community. Right? The Uyghur Muslims, right, are being massacred and sterilized like evil things by the Chinese.
Concentration camps, forced into labor camps.
No one says a word.
No one says a word.
No one says a word. And suddenly Palestine's this big issue. Yeah. This has got nothing to do with standing up for people. This has got one thing to do with everything, and that quite simply is Jew hatred. That's all it is. These people don't care about Arabs' lives.
No, they don't.
If they cared about Arabs' lives, they would have been marching when Syria... Last month, Saudi Arabia bombed a refugee camp in Yemen and killed a couple of hundred people. I hadn't heard of that, but that's insane. Killed a couple of hundred people in Yemen, right? Because, they're fighting with the Houthis and the Saudi Arabians all the time. A couple of hundred people were killed in Yemen. Who knows about that?
I didn't even hear about it.
Yeah.
There you are.
Yeah,
Case
exactly.
proven, right?
Who cares?
Yeah.
Right? Again, we have to care. We should care. All lives are important. All lives matter. All of us should care about these things. But you don't have a right to stand and do this, right? When all this is against Jews. We didn't want this war.
Yeah.
You have to understand. People really believe. Look, we disengaged. We gave them this land. We didn't want this war. We didn't. If it wasn't for the obscene attacks, this pogrom on October 7th, where over 1,000 Jews were massacred, raped, men, women, children, beheaded, burnt alive, the most evil things. The most evil things. If it wasn't for that, you think we'd be going into Gaza? Now, what do we need that for? We don't want to put our soldiers' lives at risk. Yeah. And even the fact that we're putting our soldiers' lives at risk. You know, the United States is now coming to Israel and trying to put all different, degrees of, how we should fight and how we shouldn't fight in Israel. They killed 30,000 children in Afghanistan. They just bombed the place to smithereens, right, from the air. Yeah. They didn't send their troops in and put them at risk right until the end. Yeah. They just flew drones over and blew the whole place up. Yeah. You know, we're not just... We're not just the most moral army in the world, but the most compassionate army in the world as well. The fact that we even, drop these leaflets that everybody sees all the time, tells people to leave. If you're an innocent civilian, get out. You know, when you saw the pictures of the last few days of people surrendering in northern Gaza, right? All those fatties, right? First of all, look how fat these people are, right? There's clearly no problem with aid there and food, right?
Clearly, these guys had access to a lot.
They had access to a lot of food.
Aid.
Yeah, exactly. These podgy bastards, they had no problem with food, right? Number one. But you look at all these people surrendering, and all these people are taken for interrogation. 40% of them are terrorists, right? 60% of them are civilians who, for whatever reason, stayed in the area. Those people are let go, and they're going down back to southern Gaza right now. Yeah, right. Even that, you're taking in, surrendering men of fighting age. We're questioning them, interrogating them, making sure they're not terrorists. And when we find out they're not, we're letting them go. Mm-hmm. In the middle of a war. That's a level of morality and decency that you just don't get in other places. This whole idea that Israel's butchering and massacring and all that. We have no interest in hurting anybody. Yeah. Right? You don't think, look, I'm clearly not particularly left-wing. Right? There's no secret there. Yeah. Right? But there's nothing more truly. I have kids. I don't want my kids to have to go to the army. I'd much prefer that we didn't need an army. All of the effort and work and money that we've put into our defense in Israel, imagine if we put that into science. Imagine if we put that into technology. All those brains that we have. Imagine if we took that incredible brain and the systems that we've created from a military perspective, we've needed to, and put that into technology. Look how many Nobel Prizes we've had. Look how many incredible things the Jewish people have created. Through history, time and time again, if we just took that and were able to put that into something else rather than, unfortunately, our defense. And it's horrifying and it's tremendously annoying to see people suddenly standing, and obviously you've got these, time and time again, you see the queers of Palestine, all these people. It isn't everybody.
No, of course not.
It isn't. But the flip side is, and I tell you, as a Jew, and I was personally on October 7th. I mean, I've received quite a lot of calls from friends around the world, you included, asking how I am and how my family is. I think the thing that was very difficult for a lot of Jewish people was the calls that we didn't receive. Sure. And, and that was pretty shocking as well. It's you didn't forget my birthday, right? Yeah. It's not like, oh my God, he forgot my birthday. It's like, my people are under attack. It's not like you missed it. Yeah. No one missed that. Do you know what I mean?
No, it was pretty big. It was,
this is quite a serious issue.
Yeah, it was a headline of pretty much every single major newspaper in the world.
Of everything, right? Like, you could, there's no bubble you could have been in and missed that.
It would have been hard.
And I think maybe 3 weeks in, I went through my friends on Instagram. Yeah. And I had a look at all of these people that I was friends with.
Yeah.
And after 3 weeks, hadn't even asked how I was.
Yeah.
You know, again, you can be an idiot and pretend that you don't understand the situation. You don't want to pick a side. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know, you want to side with homicidal maniacs? Okay, fine. But ask me how my children are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And those people, you know, dead to me, as they say.